This is Aykan Erdemir. I'm currently the Senior Director of the Turkey Program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. I am also a steering group member of the International Panel of Parliamentarians for Freedom of Religion or Belief, and earlier served in the Turkish Parliament as a member of the opposition between 2011 and 2015. And I also serve on the Anti-Defamation League's Task Force on Middle East Minorities. And as all of these show, I am an outspoken advocate for freedom of religion or belief in Turkey and the broader Middle East. Now, I think the best way to figure out what's happening in Turkey is to check the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom's annual reports. And this year, as the Commission has also done earlier, it recommended Turkey to be put on its special watch list for egregious violations of religious freedom. Now, this is a telling report because Turkey is the only NATO member state, the only one among 30 that USERF recommends for such a designation. And alongside Azerbaijan, it's, again, the only country within the Council of Europe. Particularly when we talk about Christian minorities, we see not only a systematic discrimination that has been going on for decades, but increasingly we see a new phase in discrimination, and that is expectation that religious minorities, Christian minorities, perform as props in the government's spectacles of tolerance aimed at whitewashing the government's persecution of religious minorities. I call this a more advanced stage of discrimination because it forces religious minorities to become active agents in their own subjugation. So my overall take in Turkey is the trend for Christian minorities is a negative one as these communities continue to experience an exodus. And at the same time, we see on the legal front further restrictions. For example, obstacles to electing members to Christian minority foundations, or government meddling in the election of lay or religious leaders. So overall, when we combine the political and legal pressures with the ongoing alarming demographic and social trends, one could argue that Christianity might come to an end in the cradle, in the geography where it first flourished. And I think this is an alarming trend. Now, I think international solidarity with Turkey's vulnerable communities and pressure on Ankara need to go hand in hand. And when we talk about international pressure, there are actually important instruments at hand here. For example, USERF has been recommending the State Department to place Turkey on its special watch list. And this year, again, the State Department looked the other way and failed to follow that recommendation. I think that would be a great first step. That is signaling to Turkey that things are not going well and that Washington is paying attention. And we all know that there could also be a second step. That is, USERF could then recommend Turkey to be declared a country of particular concern. And definitely the Erdogan government merits that designation. And if and when the State Department puts Turkey on that list, then that paves the way to potential International Religious Freedom Act-based sanctions against Turkey for its violations of religious freedoms. So that's, I think, one important step that Washington can take. But it's also important for this action to be a concerted transatlantic action. That is, there are also instruments within the European Union and the Council of Europe to hold Ankara accountable. One of the most important institutions for Turkey's persecuted Christians has been the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. Turkey, in the history of the Council of Europe and the European Court of Human Rights, has been the worst offender, has been convicted the highest number of times in Strasbourg. And I think it is time that the United States and the Council of Europe join forces to pressure Ankara to start abiding by the binding rulings of the European Court of Human Rights. And as we speak, the Council of Europe has just started an infringement procedure against Turkey for failing to abide by the European Court of Human Rights rulings. And I think that could also be an important signal to Turkey that its actions are not in line with the European Convention on Human Rights, which also have very important provisions for religious freedoms. I would say that although there are a lot of worrying developments in Turkey, especially when it comes to the Erdogan government, we also see a glimmer of hope when local governments, such as the Istanbul Mayor's Office, take action to promote pluralism and inclusive democracy at the local level. So no matter how dark things are at the level of the central government, when we have local rulers, mayors, city councillors who have the moral courage and integrity to do the right thing, that I think gives these persecuted Christian communities and Jewish communities really a hope to sustain themselves and their heritage.